everybody, and welcome to Tacobout It Tuesday. My name is Alexandra, and I am joined today by the lovely, amazing Amy Sanchez-Zadak.
Hello, thank you for that introduction.
Yeah.
You're sweet. Not that you're biased or anything like that.
She is my mother, so I'm going to be calling her Mama if you hear that coming out, because it's weird to call my mom by her first name. Mama is a part of the cast now. She's joined us during the socially distant improv games and sketches, and she's a part of our acting scene. You have seen her do that, and she actually knows what she's talking about. It's an act when she's playing Dr. Z on there, guys. This is going to be a fun interview for Talk About It. So, Mama, what are you all about? Who are you? Tell me about yourself.
Wow. Well, I'm a mom, so that's first and foremost. But let's see. So my background is in mental health counseling and leadership and human services. So what that means is my master's is in mental health counseling, and I was in private practice. And then my doctorate's is in leadership, which I absolutely love. That's really my passion. I think they're both extremely linked. I am what we call a behavioral strategist. And what that is I use psychology to change different strategies, whether in your personal life or in the business world. And it's a lot of basically profiling if you really just stop and think about it.
Yes, she helps us in our company when we have, some clients that just want that behavioral aspect, corporate or just a one-on-one, that need that extra help with analyzing those things. So we'll bring our mom in, and she does it because she's the expert, and we don't want to pretend like we know everything about that. So it's really fun to be able to work with family in that sense of things as well. Mama, theater, yes. Right? Like, what's that about? Improv and theater? Love it. What is it that you find endearing about it? What was that like click for you to find a connection with improv or theater?
Well, I think that click that you mentioned is really a great word. It's those aha moments that people talk about, the light bulb that goes on. And it was with you and your sister, Angelica. So you both started theater. Angelica started it first. You started going to summer camp, and that flowed. And then somehow I fell into being a costume person, I guess, in the back, and it was so much fun. But in doing that, I learned so much about theater and acting. And then it was actually when you guys started improv that I had a client that was really struggling with just social skills. Mm-hmm. And in watching you all perform, you just have that moment that you go, this would probably help this person. And so I talked to Angelica at the time. You were in high school still. And Angelica put this whole kind of curriculum together. It was like 3 different games. And she took those games, and we met my client in a classroom, and she went through the exercises. And the more she did the exercises, the more I realized, oh my God, this is a godsend. I mean, this is just exactly what people need. So I fell in love with it through your process. You both actually taught me the whole gift of improving.
Yeah. It's been fun to kind of incorporate ourselves into your world with improv, and you coming into our world with your psychology background. Those two worlds coming together is so it's something that a lot of people don't normally see, but it's actually, it's something that I was just talking about with Michael in the other interview, that he said that you bring yourself into the situation and you are there to be in that moment, and it's all about focusing in that moment, and that takes a lot of mental strength for some people. We've gone into your classroom before to do some improv techniques with your students.
Right.
So how do you think it benefits in the classroom?
I think it's a dress rehearsal. So we're very text oriented in academia, and obviously that's our foundation. I think that we use a lot of practice when we talk about medical school students, but it could apply for everything. So you've been in my classroom. One of my classes is human sexuality. So we take that. It's not that we're doing anything in that sense, obviously, of sexuality, but what you're really focusing on is scenarios. We have social scenarios. We have going to a club and someone harassing us. So in that chapter of sexual harassment, there's role playing. So we have role playing. Once you role play something, it feels familiar when it really actually happens. Even if the details aren't the same, you have that sense of connection, and you can relate to, oh, this is the action that I should be taking. I also, teach the death and dying class, my favorite class of all, which I know people don't understand that, but what's important about that class is that, especially with college students and young people, we don't really think about the death and dying process. But what we do learn in that classroom is that dying is not about those who die, it's about those who are left behind. So that whole training was great because, again, we plan our whole funeral. You guys came in as funeral directors, and it was the ambiance. They already experienced their funeral in real time. And yes, they were scared, they were emotional, but then they got it. And I think that's what's incredible about using improv in the classroom. We used to use it in Gestalt therapy, and it was called role playing, and it was empty chair, or you would do the role playing. This gives it a different element because you can do it with your peers, and at the same time you get immediate feedback, and it's positive feedback, and as you guys always tell me, it's a non-threatening environment, so there's really no wrong. And like I tell my students, especially when it comes to death and dying and they're putting together their funeral, it's like, how can I flunk you for being you? I think it's incredibly important for them to make the emotional connection. We tend to remember emotions more than memorizing the book. So if I were to ask my students, and I do have students that 10 years later, they're still going, I remember that death and dying class. Now, when you look at students and you talk to them, they're going to remember the experience without a doubt. They're not going to remember chapter 7, question number 5.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a big thing that we've kind of learned from sitting in on your classes. When we were really little, we couldn't get a babysitter, so we would sit in the corner with our grapes and watch our mom teach. It ended up being a learning process for us as well, because we learned certain techniques in a classroom that you don't usually get from teachers. At the time, we would have some teachers that would just tell us to do the work and then do the work and memorize it. But going into our mom's classroom, we would see that she had an interaction with the student. She made sure that they understood that it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to do these things, which I think kind of helped us with our leniency into theater and improvisation, because it's a collaborative, safe space to work with each other. And that's how it was in her classroom already. And bringing the improvisation into the classroom was fun because she would come home and say, oh, you'd be so proud of me. I did improv in class today. And they worked out something one-on-one, and they played it in front of the whole class. And it's true, talking to Alicia from Society Circus, that's what she does in her class as well. She's also a professor. And she will bring that into the classroom because she finds that it's easier for them to learn with that physical and mental process. They're not thinking so much about getting it right. They're kind of just going through the motions, which really helps, especially with some of the therapy practices that you're emulating in some of these classes, that, you want them to be prepared for every situation, no matter what the situation could be, because you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Don't we all want a dress rehearsal? So, I think it's really important.
And it shows you where your students are. I think that's another benefit, is it kind of shows
that's huge.
Yeah, where they are in the learning process. Do they fully understand this, or were they just nodding their head and smiling when I spoke during my lesson?
And where are they as humans? For future therapists, the key component, I remember my first psychology teacher in high school said, if you're here to learn about yourself, you're here for the wrong reasons. And I took that to heart, but she was so wrong. So I do the total opposite. I mean, that was such a different view than what I have. So my biggest piece is you need to learn about you before you can help someone else. And the reason that is because if you don't know your quirks, they're going to surface because people are going to trigger your feelings. So you have a lot of people with emotions coming to you, and there's going to be emotions that are going to be triggered. If somebody has views on religion, if they have views on marriage, and those views are extremely different than what your values are, that's going to trigger an emotion. So you have to understand that. Doesn't mean you can't treat the patient, but you have to understand it, acknowledge it, honor it, and put it aside. And then honor the patient's wishes to move forward and be helpful. And if you cannot do that, then we use the word referral and we refer. So I think it's really important because with those games, I learn my students every single little quirk that they have or insecurity. And I love it because when you tell them, again, through your improv, what's great is that they accept it. It's not criticism. It's not a personal attack.
Right. Yeah. It's all a learning process with the games. And I think one of the key things that we teach and you teach in the classroom is like, it's okay to fail. I mean, you're going to do it. It's going to happen. You really can't avoid it. There's no possible way to avoid the failure because it needs to happen. It needs to happen for you to be able to learn and practice and define what it is that you're trying to get across, whatever point you're trying to get across, right? So, so in saying that with the improv, you've played a couple games. We played a couple games with your students. So what would you say is one of the exercises that you find is the most useful to you?
There's a couple you're gonna probably get frustrated because I don't remember the names of the game.
Okay.
Describe. That's why I love going to you with you guys when you do your improv. I remember when you went to the one in Miami for this big company, and I was on the sideline and you guys were playing the game. So for me, it's empowering because you guys are doing the exercises. You want them to connect, and I get to see the personalities just surface because they're playing a game. So they don't feel, they open up, so they're feeling attacked. So you have one game that it's like, you tell the story, it's one word per person. So the exercise, the way you taught me, was each person tells a word and I write the story on the board. So usually pick a theme for, and I'll just say like something about a girl who has issues with her dad, and then they have to tell the story. And I love that because the key component is don't think, just say, right?
You're not really supposed to think about your words before they happen. You're just supposed to go moment by moment. It's once upon a time. So it's once upon a time. So perfect. So what I find with that story is all my students walk into the classroom that want to be psychologists. They want to fix. That's their weak point. They want to be fixers. They want to put on that cape and they're fixers. And that's why, why did you want to be a psychologist or something in mental health? Because I want to help people. What happens there is they want to help people by solving their problems. So my job is to teach them how to listen. So when we're doing Once Upon a Time, my focus is who's trying to fix the problem in their head. And I see that through their body language, their eyes, the way they're looking at the other person, and they're already thinking ahead. So I'm watching the entire room while they're doing this exercise. And at that one time, you were writing on the board. You were helping me out, and you were writing the story on the board. So as you remember, I would stop it and say, nope, let's start all over. And every time we do this, we're going to start over. You cannot think it through. So they would pause, even if it was a 10-second pause, that was too much. But it said so much about the personality and the character. And then that trains them. Okay, I've got to listen without thinking while they're talking. And that's the biggest
flaw. How many times do you talk to someone when you're not in improv and you're already wanting to give an answer, right? And that's what we try to avoid. So that's my favorite game.
Yeah, that's a fun one to always play. Even with corporate, when we're trying to help them with mission statements, it's okay, we're going to tell a story about what you want your company to be about, the story of the greatest accomplishment, right? And they come up with these things, and sometimes they'll jump in and do like 2 or 3 words, and then you have to tell them, okay, stop. Now, the next person that goes, you cannot say any of the words that they just said. You have to keep going.
Right. The listening part.
Yeah. That's the key with improvisation is, you're in the moment, you're listening. You have to be present, because if you're not, then you lose everything. You lose the gift that they're giving you and whatever it is that they're telling you.
Right.
So you have to take in the moment and in a split second have a great response to it without having to think twice. Your initial gut reaction should be the appropriate reaction to whatever someone's giving to you.
Right, exactly. And I used to teach interpersonal a few years back, and that was one of my favorite classes too, because again, it's a lot of the techniques used in improv, eye contact, body language. It's a package deal. 80% of our communication is really body language. So those are key components. So when I'm working with you guys, that's my favorite part, watching the room and interpret and being able to give you the feedback of, this person's this way, this person's that way. And in layman's terms, it's really profiling. In our world, in the therapy world, it's assessing the client. So we're really trying to assess what's going on so we can move forward.
Right.
And we had another client. She was younger. She was 15 and in theater. And once she said she was in theater, I was like, okay. And she had major trust issues, which we had to respect. And it was our job to have her trust us. She had been through quite a bit of an experience. So you helped me, and Angelica helped me with that. And I'm just so incredibly, she put in all the work.
Yes, she did.
Finding that connection, and theater just put her where it needed to be.
Yeah. She's been doing amazing. It's like the growth you see is incredible just by using theater terminology and exercises with, the majority of the help from the psychological background of it. It's really awesome to see, again, those two worlds kind of come together. We always kind of bring psychology into the world of theater because it's so useful. If any of you ever go into dramaturgy or anything like that, our mom did that for Nova Southeastern University's performance one time. And
that was fun.
It's super fun because you get to do other research, which she is a very big researcher. So that, of course, right off the bat was fun for her. Plus, she was working with the personalities of the students and comparing it to their character work. I think it was great that she was there as well, just because the roles that they were playing were so intense and so dramatic that, as an actor, you put yourself into every role because you want to be true to the role while still making it believable. So she was also there to kind of keep them on check of mental health as well. And I think that's one of the greatest benefits to theater, film, TV, whatever it is, having that background or that understanding to help you and support you is always a great asset, Now, I would like to ask a fun fact about you. If I saw you across the street and I was like, who's that lady? I don't know her. What's something that I can't tell just by looking at you?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm Cuban. I mean, that's nobody. So looking at me, you would not be able to tell that. I don't know. I don't think I come across as a specific type. But that's what I always get, that's the response when people hear me speak Spanish. They'll turn around and go, oh my God, you speak Spanish. That's the first thing. And second thing, I don't know. I just don't think I come across as a certain persona, or maybe I do. I mean, you would be better at that than I do, but
What kind of persona? What do you mean by
Hmm?
that? What
Like,
do you
I don't think I come across as, oh, yep, she's a professor. Oh, yeah, she does balloons, you know, so we have a family business, obviously, but I don't come across as any specific thing. But if people were to not be surprised at something, I think it would be my background.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't grow up in the country either, which, you know, we live in more of a country life now, but I grew up in North Miami, so little things like that. But I don't think and I'm going to throw this out because, you know, I've talked about this very much. It's very important for me I've always used that I'm a Cuban chameleon because I can kind of change in certain situations. Some people see chameleons as people that are, oh, you're just going with the flow. But to me, it's incredibly important to understand people's world. So when I'm talking to my college students, I want to connect with them. So I have to speak that language of understanding, not the verbatim language, but the language of, I understand you're stressed. I understand you're going through a lot of stuff. If I'm talking to an 80-year-old individual, I have to respect that time and space that they understand. They don't understand what's going on now. So, and the computer world. So I would say that part of being a chameleon, that I can really adapt. And I think it is an adaptation out of respect, not out of wanting to fit in.
Yeah, I think that's a part of, you know, stories that you've told of you growing up here. You know, you said how you've had to adapt to a lot of different situations in your life that you just didn't expect would be happening, which I think is why you also understand the world of improv and how it can change and shift so quickly. Without, you know, any preparation. You know, you can't think twice. You just got to go for it or do it. And I think that's the reason why one of the terms chameleon fits the family so well, just because, you know, and you taught us that growing up as well, as a problem solver. You know, you can't just sit around and wait for it to get fixed. You have to sometimes just do it yourself, you know, and to be able to move along and be able to stay calm during certain situations, I think was a lot. Growing up, we were taught that a lot of, you know, you are your own person and you're gonna have struggles and there's gonna be obstacles, but you're gonna have to get over them and gotta work through them because they're not there to stop you. They're just there to help you grow. So yeah. So I think that's the word that kind of like fits, especially when you tell us about, you know, your life story. It's just, it makes sense, you know.
Exactly. And you know, my parents, I have to give them kudos. Trust me, when I was in my 20s and teens, that was not a word that would be, you know, be coming out of my mouth thanking them, but they were very chameleon-like. They were incredibly good people and they were always nice. So we had a diverse neighborhood in many ways. We moved from, you know, one neighborhood to the other, which that transitioned, and that allowed us to be so open to anybody. There were no prejudices. There were no issues. It was like, these are people and they're like family, you know, everyone's family, and you grow to love everyone. Doesn't matter who they are. So that helped a lot, and it gave you a sense of attachment to just the human race.
Yeah, that was something that you carried down to Angelica and I when we grew up. You know, you exposed us to a lot of different people, especially in the entertainment industry. You know, there's all different kinds of characters there. And I think that was really good for us as well, growing as people, you know, being able to work collaboratively with people with no judgment was something that we were kind of trained to do since we were little, because there were just so many different personalities that came through our lives and that we ended up bonding with and are still calling people Uncle David, you know.
Right. And the reality is that, where does judgment play a part in any relationship?
Yeah.
It just doesn't. So once you start judging, it's blurred. The relationship's blurred, and we start. What really surfaces in judgment is who we are, not who that person is, and that's something that we always have to understand. So there's a great quote. I think it's Anais is the person who said it. And it says, "We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are." And that means that when we judge people, it's not what they're doing. It's what we see that they're doing. So what does that say? Bring it back home. What does it say about you? Sometimes it's not the best thing. So, I mean, we always strive to be good humans, you know, and that's the Zedek Rule. And we try the best we can. And hopefully, you know, through improv, we can teach others to be the best of what they are and to connect with who they are and like themselves. Once you like yourself, everything else is easy. You're more accepting.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything that you would like to put out there? Anything you're working on, or things that you just want to promote, whatever it is?
So actually, I'm working on what we call a mastermind group, and Countdown is my trademark, if you will. And I use Countdown because we always say when I, but we never count down. It's like if we're looking for something in the future. And in actuality, life is all about counting down, because once you decide you want something, you have so many days in a lifetime. Even if it takes a whole lifetime, you're going to be counting down. So mastermind groups that I work with and like sharing things with is basically about trying to help people get to their goal in a specific window. So that's one of the new projects I'm starting. So I'm really excited about that. And then, you know, be involved in your community. And there's a lot in the community that you can learn, be a part of, and it just makes you feel so good.
Yeah. Yes, you are very good at being a part of the community. I just gotta say, I mean, our mom has been the president of 4 or 5 different organizations, right? Am I right? Right?
Probably,
yeah. And just for fun. I mean, there's no there's no ulterior motive behind it. And then now in the house we're hearing again, we're going again. And it's all
it is fun. I mean, it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding.
Yeah.
So it's all for selfish reasons, because it's very rewarding. And we have a great community. We have an amazing community.
Yeah, Davey's really a good, they're very old time, neighborly, trying to help each other out, small town vibes with a lot of people, you know, because we could have become a city, but we chose to keep it a town so we could stay more personable. And I think that's something that is so awesome about Davey, and we've seen it with working in the community. So, you know, we're all, the family is a part of the Davey Cooper City Chamber of Commerce. The family is in the Davey Women's Club, and it's such a fun community to get involved in, and they're so open to the arts as well. So it's been a fun ride with that aspect of things too.
Right, and Nova's in where I teach, and you are an alumni. You know, they are also, they have a great professional arts, you know, I think you guys call it, what is it, performing arts?
Yeah, it's a performing visual and arts program.
Okay, so you have that, and it all comes together, and it's interesting how just everything comes together. We think we have a plan, but I think the universe has a better plan for us. So, but yeah, that's my pitch, and just, you know, understand who you are. That's the key component here. And improv, yes. I mean, I have learned so much from improv. It makes me incredibly happy to be able to be a part of your world, and keep on learning, because that's something that I'll always be. I'll be a continuous learner as long as I can. So thank you.
Yeah. We are definitely learning every day of our lives, all the time, 24/7, because guys, life's unpredictable. You can't do this stuff expertly, you know. Now, I will add in a promotion. Normally, I would talk about This is Legends of Yesterday, but today, I will be saying that our mom, Angelica, and I are in a podcast called The Procaffeinators, where we sip some coffee and spill some tea about what we think about certain things in life. So this is all based on our opinions. Sometimes there's some research behind it, but it's just a fun talking podcast where we tell you about everything life, where we discuss our favorite topics, our favorite coffee facts. You know, it's just a fun, family-friendly thing to discuss. So why don't you check that out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It will be linked down below in the description. If you're watching this through Instagram, it will be linked somewhere, or you can just type it in. Just take 2 seconds. Thank you so much for joining me today on
You're welcome.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys wouldn't know it, but we're in the same house, just different rooms. So you know how it is with this Zoom quarantine thing.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of seconds.
See you in a couple seconds. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Talk About It Tuesday. Don't forget to check out the description for This is Improv's online classes for kids, teens, adults, writing, and corporate team building. Also, don't forget to look at the description down below for some websites to educate yourselves or organizations that might need a little bit extra help at this time. My name is Alexandra. Thank you so much to the lovely Amy Sanchez-Zadak for joining us today. I hope you have an amazing and wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.